And I'm live. Yay. Okay. Well, there is a little grass reserve next to me, and workers have been in there leaf blowing so noisy for the last 35 odd minutes. But it seems like they have just finished. So it could be perfect timing. Hopefully, it's perfect timing. But if there is some background noise, that's what it is. It's people using leaf blowers, even though it's pouring rain. Well, we have a couple of minutes before we get started. It's a great time to create a comfortable practice space to make sure you've got what you need. In terms of props for today, we're going to be sitting back on a couple of blocks for a quad stretch, a thigh stretch. So if you don't have yoga blocks that you can stack, grab a couple of big cushions off the couch or some blankets that you can fold up and stack up to give you a reasonable height. We'll also do some seated meditation. So, whatever you would normally use to sit on, so that you can be relatively upright for meditation, even if that means having a chair somewhere in the neighborhood nearby that you can move to and then come back to your mat afterwards. And that's it for today. Just those couple of props that you can use to elevate to sit on for a stretch and for meditation. And as I said last week, today we're honing in on the topic of motivation. And I think my default when I think about being motivated is kind of narrow focus, straight line, 1 to 100. But I think often in life, it doesn't go quite that straightforwardly. And so today, there'll be some shifts in pace, there'll be some opportunities for you to upregulate and downregulate. And it really does come down to you continuing to focus your attention on what's motivated you to come to practice. It's not that straight line progression, there'll be some sideways steps, some detours, some backward steps. But that to me is kind of how life works. And so, motivation, like meditation, isn't that feeling of only and always progressing forward. It's our ability to hold our focus, even as life events take us in slightly different ways. Well, we'll get started. As always, the chat box is open, but I won't be checking it during. So if there's something that you want to share with me or a question that you want to ask, jump in after, or the class will be up on Yoga Medicine Online in a couple of days. You can always pop comments in there. I always like receiving those. Let's get started. Whoops, little bump. Okay. Hi, I'm Rachel Land. Welcome to Yoga Medicine Online and welcome back to your practice. In today's practice, you could get away without too many props. We are just going to be sitting up on something for a stretch for the front of the thighs, the quads. So I'll be sitting on top of these two stacked blocks. But if you don't have blocks, just grab something else that will be firm enough that you can sit on to generate a little bit of height. So that could be a couple of big cushions off the couch. It could be a stack of blankets that you can fold up and then stack one on top of each other. And we will also sit for meditation just for a couple of minutes. So that might mean using those same props to elevate your sit bones a little, or it could mean that you have a chair nearby that you go to sit in and then return to your mat afterwards. And that's really all that you need for today. So when you have that, come down to lie on your back and get comfortable. So that could mean that you use your props, could mean that your knees are bent, any position really that allows the back of the body to offload onto the floor and that requires a little bit less muscular effort so you can relax a little. And as you relax, feel yourself breathing in and breathing out. And imagine that you could follow your breath into your body so that with each breath you become a little more aware of what you've brought to the mat with you today. And that could be physical sensations. There could be parts of the body that are feeling a little tender or tight, places that would benefit from extra care and compassion. Or it could be a more general sense of your energy being kind of high, a little scattered and busy, or your energy being a little dull, low, suppressed. Every time we arrive on our mat to practice, it is as a slightly different person, and so our practice should probably be a little different too. So notice what you brought with you, and then we'll do a little bit of movement to help you gather more information. Kind of focus the mind into the activities and experiences of the body. So, whatever shape you've been in now, bend up through your knees and plant your feet. Feet and knees tracking roughly hips width apart. Relax your arms down by your sides. Now, take a slightly slower, slightly deeper breath in. And as you breathe out, drive down through your feet, peel up your buttocks and sacrum, low back, maybe your middle back, maybe your upper back. As you breathe in, sweep your arms up toward the ceiling and then overhead, landing your biceps by your ears. And then with your breath out, see if you can time it so that your hands and your hips touch back down to the mat at the same time. So the arms will need to move faster. Now we'll repeat that. Everything rests on the floor as you inhale. Leave your arms, just your hips and spine move as you exhale. Inhale to add the overhead sweep of the arms. And for me, this takes just enough thought to kind of keep me present. And then exhale to bring both hands and hips back down to the mat. Do a couple more rounds at the pace of your breath, tapping into this slightly counterintuitive rhythm and using it to gather a little more specific information as to what's going on for you today. We'll do one more round. And whenever you next bring your hands and hips back down to the mat, they can stay there to rest. Stretch your arms out wide. You'll toe your feet out to mat width and take a leisurely rock from side to side, moving your knees sort of like windscreen wipers or windshield wipers, and continuing to gather information. And as you get an idea of what's going on for you today, physically and otherwise, I want you to think about what motivated you to practice today. What brought you here? Maybe you are looking for more strength and stability or more mobility. Maybe you are looking for a little stress relief or a sense of focus and clarity. Maybe you're seeking a feeling of rhythm and routine. So take a final windshield wipe from side to side, honing in on your purpose, your intention in coming to your mat today. And then bring your knees back to center, curl them in toward your chest. Reach down to catch hold to give yourself a little hug or squeeze. And of course, in this practice, like in life, you don't have full control. I've set the sequence. And so some of the events that happen will be outside your control. But what you can control is where you focus your energy and your attention, the approach that you bring to the practice and the responses that you give it. And in that sense, I think the practice is very much like life. Now give your knees a final hug and then make your way up to a seat, either by rolling to one side and pressing up, or by rocking up the length of the spine. And find a seat that you can be in pretty comfortably for a minute or two. So that could mean that you're sitting up on a block or a blanket, could mean kneeling instead of being cross legged. I will turn to face you, but you can stay facing the front of your mat. And you'll have your first of several opportunities here to shape your practice around your motivation for being here. So, we're going to move into a pretty specific breath practice called a physiological sigh, where you'll inhale through the nose and then inhale a little bit more and then exhale out through an open mouth. Now, you could time that physiological sigh so that it's pretty quick, energizing, and intense. Or you could make that exhalation slower and softer so that the overall experience is a little more restful. So choose your rhythm and then we'll move our arms in time. So as we breathe in, we'll sweep the arms out and up. And as we breathe out, we'll bring our hands through prayer and down through center. We'll do that for about a minute or so. So start with your arms out wide, exhale. And then when you're ready, begin. Clarity of purpose. Last couple. Next time you bring your hands down, leave them down. Give your shoulders a little roll, or the torso a little shimmy. And see if you can take that clarity of purpose with you as we start to move. Obviously, I have developed a sequence, but you can take breaks, you can add movements in or leave movements out, you can slow down or go more quickly to make sure that your practice leaves you with the feeling that you were seeking when you came to it today. So come out of your seat, shift your props out of your way, and make your way to all fours. Walk your hands about a handspan further forward than your shoulders. Take a gentle spread through your fingers and then anchor down through all 10 knuckles and all 10 fingertips. Tuck your toes behind you, hug your arm bones down and into your shoulder sockets. Keep that as you push the floor away to wrap your shoulder blades around your side ribs and float your knees. And then lift your hip creases all the way up and back to downward facing dog. Now you've got a few breaths in to settle into a more even rhythm, letting go of that physiological sigh for now, although we will come back to it later. And you might invest that time strolling out through your feet or shifting your hips from side to side. You might invest that time giving your head a little sway or nod to soften up the tissues of the neck. Or you might invest that time staying sturdy and solid, stable and still. So choose your own adventure here for a final couple of breaths. Take one more, and if you were moving, settle into stillness. And then as you next breathe in, rise to tiptoes. And with your breath out, walk your feet forward towards your hands, toward the front of the mat. Inhale to lift up halfway, gliding your shoulders back and down. Exhale to curl forward, draping your torso over your thighs. Inhale to drive up tall, arms reach up overhead. And exhale your hands to prayer, your thumbs at your heart. Now take a leisurely breath in here. We'll always pause at the top of the sun salutation. Exhale out so there's never any rush for you to keep pace with me. And that's where we're headed. Sun salutation A, arms up as you breathe in. Fold forward as you breathe out. Inhale to halfway, plug your arms into your shoulder sockets. Exhale to plant your palms and walk your feet back to plank. Inhale here, gathering in around the middle of the body. Exhale to shift forward to tiptoes, knees down if you like, slow lower to the mat. Point your toes. Inhale to peel your chest up to cobra. And then exhale up through all fours or plank to downward facing dog. And again, we'll pause here for a full breath in and a long breath out. Next breath in, lift your heels. And breathe out to walk forward, feet toward hands. Inhale halfway. Exhale to bow. Inhale to rise tall, arms reach. Exhale, hands to heart center. And again, a deliberate breath before we move through this flow, this familiar flow, a few more times. So see if you can settle into a rhythm. Arms up as you breathe in. Fold forward, breathe out. Inhale halfway. Plant your palms, exhale to plank. Inhale here, set your shoulders, core, legs. Exhale to shift forward, lower slow. Inhale to cobra, or you could straighten your arms and lift your hips for up dog. Exhale, downward facing. Inhale fully. Exhale deeply. Inhale, tiptoes. Exhale, feet to hands. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale to curl forward. Inhale to drive and reach tall. Exhale, Anjali Mudra, hands to prayer. And again, pause for a breath before we repeat. Same flow. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, bow. Inhale, halfway. Exhale, plank. Inhale here. Exhale through chaturanga. Inhale your back bend. And exhale, downward dog. Again, pause here for a breath. And now that it's familiar, see if you can find ways to make this flow an expression of your motivation, your reason for practicing. Inhale, tiptoes. Exhale, walk forward. Inhale, halfway, shoulders shrug. Exhale, bow. Inhale to drive tall. Exhale, hands to prayer. Mindful breath. We have two more rounds. Arms up. Bow. Halfway. Step back to plank. Breathe in here. Transition forward. cobra or upward facing dog, downward facing. Take a breath. Tiptoes. Step forward. Halfway. Bow. Rise tall. Hands to prayer. Take a breath. Final round on your own. And if you lose track of the breath references I was teaching, don't worry about it. Move through your own pathway, using the flow as your chance to express that quality that brought you to your mat. We'll meet back in Tadasana. No rush to get there. But whenever you do, you can release your arms down by your sides and take a moment to notice that you probably already feel a little different to how you felt when you arrived on your mat. And you might be starting to find those opportunities to focus your energy and your attention on the qualities that that you sought from your practice today. And then from here, shift your weight to stack over your right foot. I'll be on my right foot too. I won't be your mirror. Take a long step back with your left foot. Turn the left toes out, ground the left heel, lining up roughly front heel to back heel or front heel to back arch. Turn your torso toward the left long edge of the mat, and then stack your shoulders over your hips, arriving in Warrior Two. Now, even here, you can really personalize your practice. You could have the legs a little closer together, the front knee a little less bent, and feel a little higher and more buoyant. You could take a longer stance or a deeper stance, challenging your mobility or your capacity to hold and stay. But we're going to be here for a little while. We're going to flow from here, reintroducing that physiological sigh. So on our breath in, we'll be in Warrior Two and then Reverse Warrior. And on our breath out, we'll tilt the torso halfway forward as if to extended side angle, maybe reaching through the bottom arm, maybe adding the load of the top arm. So again, you can fine tune your pace and your intensity to really give you what you need from your practice today. So start in Warrior Two, settle your shoulders on your back ribs and exhale out. Inhale through the nose, keep breathing in Reverse Warrior, and then exhale, extended side angle, open mouth. And again, choose your pace. 5 more by my count. Last one. Come back to warrior two. Feel that you create a little warmth and energy, might have shaken off some stagnation, and then bring your hands to prayer. Take your gaze toward the front of the mat. Pivot up onto the ball of that back left foot to square your chest and hips toward the front of the mat. Back knee soft. And again, you could stay pretty high and buoyant as you stretch your arms out above your head. Or you could bend both knees really deeply, maybe even deeply enough that the back knee taps or brushes the floor. No physiological sigh here. We're going to generate that heat and energy from our movement. So we'll start here in your crescent lunge variation. And then tilt the torso forward and actively straighten out through the back leg. Arms reach overhead for arrowhead variation. You could stay here, or you could fold forward to plant your palms on the floor in front of your right foot. Coil your spine to float the right foot and then stretch it out behind you for a one-legged plank. Flowing back in reverse, right knee to chest. Plant the right foot lightly. Float your arms for arrowhead. And then lift your shoulders up to stack above your hips as you bend the back knee a little or a lot. That's our flow. Now, maybe you flow slow and steady, breathing smoothly throughout. Or maybe you flow with your breath, breathing in as you come up to your crescent variation, breathing out as you plant your palms, breathing in one-legged plank, and breathing out as you step forward. So again, choose your depth, choose your pace. So that your practice becomes an outward expression of the internal quality you were seeking when you showed up today. Three more by my count. And then we do have a rest coming. Last one. And we'll finish in our crescent lunge variation. Take a moment to pause there and soften the sides of the neck. Hands to prayer. Lean your weight forward. Step your left foot forward, front of the mat. Arms sweep up. Hands to prayer. Take a breath in. See if you can smooth it out and slow it down. Exhale out, back into the first half of our sun salutation. Inhale to sweep your arms up. Exhale to bow forward. Inhale to halfway. Exhale to plant your palms back to plank. Take a breath in here, lengthen head to heels. Exhale to shift forward all or part way down. Inhale to pull your chest through your upper arms. Exhale, downward facing dog. Take a long breath in. A smooth breath out. And then bend your knees and bring them all the way down to the mat. And we will come to the second side, but an intermission first. Lean toward your right. Take a short step forward with the left foot. So you're in a pretty short lunge. And then assemble your props, your couple of stacked blocks or cushions or blankets, and set aside your right heel. You support you as you lower your sit bones down to rest on top of your props. So your right knee is bent and your right toes pointed, something along these lines on the right side. And you're looking for a gentle stretch to run over the front of the right thigh, maybe the skin over the front of the knee, but no sensation inside the knee joint. Maybe down the front of the shin or the front of the ankle or top of the foot. If you're feeling any kind of bony contact with the floor, feel free to roll up your mat or blanket or towel for a little padding. And if you're already getting a little sensation, just relax your arms on your left leg and see if you can deliberately slow down your breathing. If you're not feeling much, then shimmy your sit bones toward the front of your props. Lean back on your fists, your fingertips, or your palms, and then deliberately tuck your tail, directing your sit bones toward the back of your left knee to kind of lift your pubic bone towards your low ribs and share the stretch with the front of the right thigh. If you're still not feeling much, you could take out some of the height of the props beneath you. You could even sit your sit bones on the floor to the inside of that right heel, or lounge back on your elbows and forearms. And if you're feeling the knee joint as opposed to the tissues over the front of the thigh, try lying down on the front of your body and reaching back with your right hand to catch your right foot and kind of gently controlling how close you bring your heel to your backside to finesse the stretch into the tissues on the front of the leg as opposed to inside the joint. And once you find a shape you can work with, settle into softer, slower breathing. See if you can feel the momentum, the energy that you created in that standing flow starting to dissolve and dissipate. And maybe in some ways that feels like a backward step, depending on your purpose for practicing today. But I think it is a really good rehearsal for how life works, which seldom gives us a goal that we can progress to unimpeded. Usually there are a couple of sideways or backward steps, wrong turns, detours, roadblocks. And so, what constitutes true motivation to me is not that unimpeded forward progress, but our capacity to keep coming back to what we're seeking over and over again. So, remember what brought you to practice today and continue to find ways to focus your energy and your attention there, even if the outward sequence isn't really supporting that goal. And with your last couple of breaths here, notice the slowing of your breath rate and heart rate, maybe a dip in your body temperature, and maybe a sense of kind of softer resolve, more subtle determination. Now, if you're face down, holding your right hand in your right foot or your right foot in your right hand, release your grip. If you're leaning back on your elbows or your hands, take as much time as you like to bring your torso back to upright, to untuck your tail, and then press down through the top of the right foot to shift forward and plant your palms. If you're face down, this is a good time to set your hands by your side ribs and lift up to hands and knees to meet us. You can then shift your props out of your way and reset for downward facing dog. So walk your hands about a handspan further forward, anchor down through your knuckles and fingertips, shrug your arms into your shoulder sockets. Wrap your shoulder blades around your side ribs and then tuck your toes, lift your knees, lift your hips. And again, you have a few breaths here to invest wherever you think the most important. That could be movement, strolling out through the feet or sweeping the right leg out behind you to flush out the hip and knee joints. It could be holding strong, sturdy, and still. It could be focusing on your breath or lowering your knees to puppy pose to focus more on the chest and shoulder opening. So take those opportunities to tailor your practice to meet your needs. And with your last couple of breaths here, if you have been moving, find your way to stillness. Take a final breath in downward facing dog. Exhale all the way out. Next time you breathe in, up to tiptoes. Breathe out to walk forward, feet to hands. Your in breath lifts you halfway. Exhale to bow forward. Inhale to drive tall. Exhale, hands to prayer. Time for a full breath in. Long breath out. One full sun salutation before the second side. Arms up as you breathe in. Bow forward. Halfway lift. Back to plank. Inhale here. Exhale to shift forward. Lower all or part way. Inhale to brighten your chest. Exhale, downward facing. Leisurely breath in. All the way out. Inhale to tiptoes. Exhale, feet to hands. Halfway lift. Coil forward. Drive tall. Hands to heart center. Refocus on your goal. And then release your arms. Now this time, stack your weight over your left foot. Step the right foot back, turn your toes out, ground your heel, and then open out toward the right long edge of the mat for warrior two. And again, you could make this pose as long and deep, as powerful as you want, or you could stay a little higher, a lighter touch, more buoyant. Remember, for that physiological sigh, our breath then will be warrior two to reverse those two sniffs to really fill the lungs. And on our breath out, we'll tilt halfway forward to extended side angle, maybe reaching with the bottom left arm, maybe adding the load of the top arm overhead. So come back to warrior two. Remember, we're here for a while. Choose the depth of the legs and then exhale out. Breathe in through the nose. Breathe out through the mouth. Choose your pace and depth to achieve your aims. Four more. Last one. Finish in warrior two. Bring your hands to prayer. Feel that warmth in your shoulders and your legs. Look toward the front of the mat. Pivot up onto the ball of that back right foot. Square your chest and hips forward. And again, remember, you could stay high, keep it light. You could bend the knees as deeply as you want, and then add your overhead arms. Now tilt your torso halfway forward. Deliberately straighten out through the back leg. Hug your hips in toward the midline. Maybe you stay and hold strong here. Or maybe you fold forward to plant your palms, coil through the belly to pick up the left foot, and then shoot it out behind you for a one-legged plank. Retrace your steps, left knee to nose. Stand strong on the left foot. Rise back up through your arrowhead variation to your crescent lunge variation. And then again, settle into a pace and depth that suits you. Maybe you're moving with your breath. Maybe you are simply moving and breathing without trying to match the two. 3 more by my count. Last round. We finish in your crescent lunge variation. Hands to prayer. Soften through the sides of the neck and the jaw. Look forward. Lean forward. Step the right foot forward. Sweep your arms up overhead. And then guide your hands to heart center. Inhale fully, deliberately decelerate. Exhale it out. Back into our sun salutation. Inhale to reach. Exhale and bow. Inhale halfway. Exhale plank. Inhale here. Exhale through chaturanga. Inhale your back bend. Exhale downward facing. A leisurely breath in and out. And then lower your knees. This time the left knee stays where it is. Lean toward the left to step the right foot forward. Find your props and maneuver them back to the floor on the inside of that left foot. And then lower your sit bones. And again, this could be you padding any kind of bony contact between the top of the foot and the floor, or filling the space between the front of the ankle and the floor if that feels more comfortable. Again, you're looking for a gentle sensation of stretch somewhere down the front of that left leg without it really collecting inside the knee joint. This could be you, a chance to soften your gaze and loosen your grip on your reason for practicing today. You could just, like on the first side, lie prone, left hand reaching back to catch hold of left foot. Or you could shimmy toward the front of your props, lean back onto your fists or fingertips, your palms or your elbows, and deliberately tuck your tail, curling your pubic bone forward and up toward your low ribs to share the stretch with the front of the hip. And as you feel your breath naturally smooth out and slow down, see if you can lean into that process, accepting the ebbs and flows of pace as a sort of dress rehearsal for accepting the ebbs and flows of life, the way that it seldom follows the trajectory that we might choose for ourselves. And see if the practice feels a little easier or more natural the second time through. Last few breaths here. If you're lying face down, you can release the grip between your left hand and your left foot. If you're back on your elbows or your hands, take your time to start to lift the torso back to upright. Untuck your tail. And then again, press into the top of that left foot to shift forward, returning to hands and knees. And if you're face down, this is a good time to lift up two hands and knees. And you've got a few breaths to invest wherever you would like. Maybe that's curling back into child's pose. Maybe that's rippling through cat and cow or taking some big circles through your hips. Maybe you want one final run at downward facing dog and a chance to sweep the left leg out behind you to flush out the knee and the hip joints. Shake out any lingering sense of tension in your neck. So, once again, recognize that you have an opportunity to tailor your practice to give you what you need today. Maybe that's an extra sun salutation. And take a last couple of breaths in, whatever you've been doing to meet your needs today. And then let's set ourselves up for a little seated reflection. So, perhaps for you, that means moving away from your practice space to sit in a chair, or it means setting up one or two of your cushions or blankets or towels or blocks to give your hips a little something on which they can rest. You could be cross legged, you could kneel, you could have your legs outstretched in front of you. So find a shape that suits you, that meets your body where it's at today, but allows you to sit with a fairly tall or upright spine. Let your hands rest on your legs or in your lap so that your shoulders start to soften onto your back ribs. See if you can find a central position for your head where you're not aware of its weight drifting forward or pulling back. And then once you've found that sort of easy plumb line to gravity, feel free to close your eyes. Or you could rest your gaze broad, soft, and low. Once again, notice that you're breathing. And imagine that you could follow your breath back into your body, almost like a little explorer, following the two ribbons of the breath in through the nose and into the center of your body. Maybe you still notice those little pockets of tiredness or tension. Maybe there are still regions that you want to treat with a little extra care and compassion. Maybe there's still an overall sense of your energy being high or low, but maybe things have changed. Maybe there are some new inputs for you to become aware of, even things as subtle as sensations of temperature and texture against your skin. And as you dial up your level of sensitivity and become more aware of the experience of living inside your skin, see if you can turn the torchlight of that attention back over the course of practice so far, back to that quality that you identified as the reason for coming to your practice today. And I'd encourage you to look back over practice and ask yourself when you felt the closest to that quality. So, if it was a sense of strength and stability, at what point in the sequence so far did you feel the strongest and the most stable? Or if it was to connect with your breath, when did you feel the most intimate connection with that rhythm? And when you did feel close to that quality, when you could identify it in your body or in your mind, what was the experience like? Kind of like putting on a pair of glasses. How did your focus adjust when that quality was present? Did it change the way you interacted with yourself or with your mat? Did it change your outward expectations of your practice? How did it shift your internal experience of it? And as you feel more familiar with the experience of expressing that quality in your practice, I will offer you a new question. How would it feel to embody that quality outside of your practice and in your life? How would that change your experiences, your expectations, and your interactions? Imagine that state as vividly as you can. What would it look like? How would it feel in your body? How would it change the words that you use in your mind or that come out of your mouth? Paint yourself a picture using the most vivid colors that you can, and bring that picture with you as you return your attention back to the coming and going of your breath and the sensations in your body. When you feel ready, blink your eyes open or refocus your gaze. Start to generate a little movement in your arms and your shoulders. Ripple gently forward and back through your spine. And stretch out your legs, a little wiggle through the feet or a circle through the ankles. And when you're ready, you can make your way down from your seat and all the way down to lie on your back. Take any props that you want to have handy for Shavasana with you. And as we did at the beginning of practice, offload the back of the body onto the floor. And we'll finish the same way we started, knees bent, feet mat width apart, arms stretched out wide. And that leisurely wash of the knees from side to side, gathering any last little nuggets of information from the body or the mind. Take a final wash of the knees from side to side. And then finish by curling your knees in towards you, maybe for a little squeeze or a rock, maybe reaching through between your knees to catch your ankles or your feet for a gentle, happy baby. And when you feel ready, Shavasana awaits. And that might mean putting a prop over you for warmth or a comforting sense of weight. Could mean rolling up your mat to support the backs of your knees or stretching out to take up a little more space. Gliding your shoulder blades a little further down beneath you as if they are holding the back of the heart. It could mean closing your eyes or softening your gaze. And once you found your way into Shavasana, give yourself permission to fully and completely relax, to let go of any lingering effort in either body or mind, knowing that whatever you did to further your aim or intention in practicing today, you have done enough. And it is now time to take in the nourishment of rest. And gently circle your attention back to your breath. Feel yourself breathing in and out. Notice the movement the breath creates naturally. And start to accentuate it, finding a little more fullness as you breathe in, a little more depth as you breathe out. And then channel the energy that generates into some movement in your fingers and hands, your toes and feet. Sweep your arms out above your head. Reach deliberately from fingers to toes. One last time, bend your knees and curl them in toward you, hugging the knees in close, as well as that picture that you painted earlier of how it might look and feel to have a little of your desired quality in your life. And bring that vivid memory with you as you make your way back up to a seat, either by rolling to one side and pressing up, or by rocking up the length of the spine. Finish in a comfortable upright seat. And bring your hands to Anjali Mudra, to prayer. Take this last moment of practice to bow your chin, acknowledging your practice and any insights gained there. And I will leave you today with the words of author Ken Poirot, who said, "Today is your opportunity to create the tomorrow you want." And as with practice today, it might involve some pauses, some backwards and sideways steps. But if you hold true to your motivation, you'll get there. Blink your eyes open or refocus your gaze. And as always, I leave you with my thanks for your presence and your practice today. Next week, we will be wrapping up the live stream series with a class that focuses on momentum, kind of builds on the cadence that we've built by showing up to practice maybe a little more regularly than we have in the last few months. So the theme for next week, momentum, a little bit more of that feeling of the weight gathering behind us to kind of lift us like the wind beneath my wings. I will leave you to enjoy the rest of your day or evening, to linger longer in Shavasana if you like. As always, reach out if you have any questions or comments. And otherwise, I will see you